coming. Live from the van down by the river.
Starring
Mike Murray.
This
is
SNL.
SNL by the numbers.
Numbers.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to SNL By The Numbers on the Saturday Night Network. We are here on March 9th. It's Pisces season. We're talking about episode 944, hosted by Travis Kelce with musical guest Kelsea Ballerini. It was the week of Kelsey's, and now we had a Woody Wednesday last week. We're coming to you on a Thursday now, so I guess it's Travis Thursday. Anyway, I have some very awesome guests that are making their By The Numbers debut tonight. Including Kirstin Turnbull, who has a special guest of her own. How you doing, Kirstin? Welcome to the show.
I'm great, and I brought a puppy.
There's a puppy on the screen for the audio listeners. You can see it. You gotta see how cute it is.
It's a 6-month-old dachshund, and his name's Lewis, and he's pretty cool.
Lewis also making his By The Numbers debut.
That's right. Expect a lot from him.
Hot takes.
Hot takes. That's right.
My other guest tonight is Victoria Franso, and I'm so happy we met on the Jack Harlow roundtable, I think. And so I was dying to have her on this show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm excited to, be here. This is my first By The Numbers, baby's first By The Numbers show. I'm excited to conquer my fear of numbers and math and mix it with things I love, like comedy and SNL.
That's a great way to look at it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people have some math aversion, but it's not that bad if you like you just said, make it about something you like. So as a kid, I didn't hate math, but I loved sports stats, and I was like, used to make a lot of sports stats, like try to track it on my own. And I was like, there's already people who do that. I should just do stats for something that no one has. So that's why I did this.
That's awesome. Now I graduated from the College of Communication, so that tells you everything you need to know about me and math.
Hey, that's good for podcasting too.
That's true.
This is all about communication. Kirstin, what about you? Do you have a major that applies tonight?
Not at all. I went to high school, and then I started my own business. So I'm from the entrepreneurial school of life.
You're from the School of Hard Knocks.
That's right. So, I do my own books, but otherwise the math doesn't always math. So
Yeah, I'm a college dropout too, but this is why we're podcasters now, because
that's right.
It's more fun.
Jealous of you both.
Well, you got the scholarship going on. You want to tell listeners about that?
Yeah. So just a long story short, I was taking classes at the Second City Chicago, which is where a lot of notable SNL cast members, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, etc., got their start. And SNL gives out scholarships at the Second City, the Pit, New York, and a few other comedy training places. And I'm one of those recipients for this year. So I'll be making my way down to Chicago and taking some classes, doing some comedy, all on Saturday Night Live's dime.
That's amazing.
Respectful.
That's so exciting. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll see what happens after. Maybe I'll come back one day as a cast member. Probably not, but manifesting it just in case.
We're hoping for that. You can be on our list of cast members who've been on the pod.
Yeah.
The more coming up, I think.
We'll do behind the scenes stuff. It'll be so fun.
Oh, BTS. Yes.
BTS Army.
We can count how many dressing rooms there are, how many lights are in the studio. We can do some numbers there.
You're basically going to show up with an entourage.
It's going to be
recording everything. It'll be all of us with microphones just following you everywhere.
Yeah, it'll just be you two. And
that's
maybe
fine.
Joan.
I'm in.
That's
maybe
fine.
Joan.
We're in. Yeah, and Lewis.
And Lewis, of course.
Yeah,
That
Lewis
goes
is
without
on the
saying.
rider. Yeah, dog food on the rider.
Lewis is going to be
Perfect.
the new director.
He could be. Yeah, he could be.
He could be. Talented.
So I don't know about you guys. We'll just we'll dive into the show. I heard about when this announcement was made for Travis Kelce. I actually think I sent John a puke emoji. I was like, oh, gross. Why is he hosting? I guess he seemed kind of annoying just from what I knew about him. But then I loved the show. I thought he was awesome. He could totally won me over. I don't know, Kirstin, what did you think of the show overall? And we'll go into our first segment.
So I didn't know who he was. I don't watch football, too many innings. Said that on purpose. And but I did a little bit of research and saw him on Fallon. Thought, okay, he's a very gregarious. He's one of those guys. I get it. Fallon talked about having met him in Miami at some event, and I, of course, thought that was his in to the SNL crew, which it could have been. But through his monologue, he won me over quite quickly. Very charming, very charismatic, so comfortable performing, the kind of person you want at the party because instantly the energy changes for the positive. Always, great attitude, looking to have fun, can talk to anyone, any age. So I was in the monologue, and there was some humility that came with that, and I think that's what made the difference. Is it wasn't completely boastful and off-putting. He had his whole family there, and he made some references to his upbringing and his love for his family and such, and really was. I mean, he got teary, and that was genuine, right? Victoria,
I think so, yeah.
I think
Victoria?
so. He choked up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
You seem like you don't believe. But anyways, the
No, I
humility
do.
is what sold me. And that's what made everything click. So I was won over in the monologue.
I was distracted by he was constantly spinning his pinky ring the entire
He
time, and
was.
I couldn't stop looking at that. But
That
when I
was his nervous
rewatched it
tick.
though, yeah, but he seemed so comfortable other than that, I guess. But I loved the monologue, and then I think the first sketch, the American Girl sketch, was like maybe one of my favorites of the season, and I was like, all right, whatever happens after this, I like this guy now. But Victoria, what were your thoughts? And we'll go into screen time.
I think I too was a little bit resistant to him hosting. I just whenever I think of athlete, I get a little like athlete in comedy. You'd never know how it's gonna go, but kind of to Kirstin's point, like he did a great job in the monologue, and then he was so down to play the rest of the show. He won me over as well, and he was genuinely funny. And the fact that he had, dare I say it, versatility in his characters, and was just open to playing some of the weirdest things I've ever seen on the show, I would say, won me over. And I think he's nicer than I probably assumed of him. And that's why you don't make assumptions about people. Victoria.
Yeah. I mean, I always say I like not knowing what a host is going to do. And when a NFL player, I mean, we've had 5 in the past, like since 1995, we've had Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, JJ Watt a few years ago, and now Travis. And you kind of think they're going to play like a certain type of role. So I'm so glad that they put that sketch up top, because it kind of just tore down that wall for everybody to be like, oh, he's going to like reference the fact that he's, they're going to do like an NFL sketch to introduce you to him. But like, I think they did such a good job in the monologue. They didn't need that. So if he's going to play like a meathead role, then put it later in the night. And it's like, then you're more, you feel more comfortable with that because he's already made you laugh as a performer. So I was really happy with that. But I'm going to debut the screen time for this right now. Just put up on the screen if you're watching with us. But Travis Kelce led the night, of course, 21-48. That's pretty good in this season. It's like pretty good for an athlete host overall. Heidi Gardner had top 3 night of her career with 10 minutes, 9 seconds. Mikey Day, 9:37. By the way, our Instagram polls and Twitter, I mean, over 90% of people were like, it's Heidi. She led the cast. So you guys are all right. Mikey Day, 9:37. Bowen Yang with 8 minutes, 21 seconds. Colin Joe, 6:58. Kelsea Ballerini making her SNL debut with 6 minutes, 18. Sarah Sherman, after being shut out last week, comes back with a great night, 6 minutes, 1 seconds. Ego Odom, also a great night as the dead grandma. That great performance right there. She had 5:45. Chloe Feynman, 5:15. Michael Che, 4 minutes, 41. James Austin Johnson, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. I liked his night as well. Punky Johnson is back after a shutout, 4 minutes, 8 seconds. Devin Walker, 3 minutes, 9. Keenan with his season low, 2:41, but he did say live from New York, which is funny when you have a season low, but you still have live from New York. Michael Longfellow, 2 minutes, 21. John Higgins of PDD leads the trio with 1 minute, 24. Marcelo, 1 minute, 20. Martin from PDD, 1 minute, 20. Ben Marshall, 1 minute, 2 seconds. Jason Kelsey, his brother, appeared in the monologue and in the ex-girlfriend sketch. He had 55 seconds. Special guest Marnie Hall, who played the old lady in the PDD sketch, which her performance was unreal to me. 31 seconds. And then Travis's parents, Donna and Ed, 19 minutes and 12 seconds, respectively. Steve Higgins with 3 seconds of voice work, and Andrew and Molly with 0 seconds. So, Kirstin, this is your first time being on the show, seeing a graph like this, for the first time. What stands out to you? I try to throw in a little commentary to break up the numbers, but what stands out to you?
Well, I appreciate the context that Travis is having. Has more minutes than most folks that do host. So that tells you something. Heidi, I think it was obvious. I think right now there are some obvious yeses on here that we saw and experienced while we watched. I love that you included the family. That's actually quite funny. And what's up with Andrew and Molly?
Yeah, I mean, Andrew had a really down week last week too.
Yeah.
And like I said, Sarah wasn't completely shut out last week, but was, appeared very briefly in the 10-1 and had voice work in the Cologuard sketch. But this is actually Molly's first shutout. They had 1 second in the Michael B. Jordan episode, so that didn't count as a shutout. But yeah, I hate to see anyone be shut out.
Yeah.
Victoria, what do you think?
I think Travis's numbers just kind of reiterates what I said, that he was so down to be part of everything. And that's what I love about a host coming in, is just being open to what's being given to them, especially in this very new environment of comedy and live comedy and so on and so forth. But Heidi Gardner leading the way this episode does not surprise me, being the Chiefs' #1 fan. If anything, I was expected, and I probably expected a little bit more than 10 minutes and 9 seconds from her, but we'll take what we can get as the new sort of leading lady of this cast.
Yeah, well, let's pivot right there. I want to talk about Heidi tonight. We've, I love when SNL gives me, as the numbers guy, an opportunity to highlight somebody because, just kind of flows naturally like that. So I was thinking about that today, about how, of course, with Cecily's departure from the show, Heidi is now the most tenured woman in the cast. So naturally, you think more opportunities. But I feel like her ascension has been pretty steady, and now it's exploding, and it makes sense. So I put up some Heidi stats. It's her 6th season. Power ranking wise, she's 2nd in the cast. We'll see that later. Screen time, 4th in the cast. She's got an hour 22, 59 appearances, is tied for 2nd in the cast with Chloe at 59. She said live from New York in the first 4 episodes. Haven't seen that since, but it's tied for 3rd in the cast. And then if you're interested in where we see Heidi Gardner the most, I broke down her screen time. So as far as live sketches, cold opens, updates. So we might talk about that. We might not. But Kirstin, I want to ask you, when you think about the Kate McKinnons, Aidy Bryant's, Cecily Strong's, it's women of SNL have had such a moment for really a decade that, they dominated the show. Keenan's always been there, and we talk about Keenan a lot in the show as the utility player that he is, but also how he can kind of do everything, and that you don't really think about Keenan in any era because he's been in so many, but the era of women was so strong that when we saw Ego and Heidi the past couple of years, we were like, when are they going to get their moment? And now that Heidi has, I just want to ask you, is there something about Heidi Gardner's talent set and what she brings to SNL that you think is just different than those 3 talented women? And why do you think that she's so important to SNL? I'm basically asking you.
Absolutely. She's an improv actor. I think that's the reason why you see live sketch at the top there. She has versatility. That I think is #1. She's played everything from an old man to, girlfriends, mothers, but the mothers in twin sets, and then the mother in the trailer park. She really can fit into any type of role and embody it with not only kind of her verbal delivery, but her physicality. And that type of range, and she doesn't break. I think she checks all the boxes for someone who is set up for success well on a show like this, and appears as a team player without kind of sucking the energy out of a sketch when she's with other people. If you talk about or think about people who are kind of would have been made in an SNL factory, she's one of them for sure. So I think for all those reasons, it's no surprise that she is reaching the heights that she is. I think Ego is hot on her heels because she also has the singing ability. And it's fantastic to see them both taking this. I think you had to have someone like Kate off the show to make room for people like Heidi to shine. It would have been much longer and harder for her to do that. And if you recall when Kate was leaving, and a lot of hearts were broken, as they should be, you thought, oh gosh, who's going to replace her? And that was everywhere in the media. Who's going to replace her? And I have not heard anyone say that in a very long time, because clearly some heir apparents have stepped up, which is a testament to, their fit and their aptitude in that role.
Great point that you said about, kind of just being bred for SNL, or just like in the SNL factory. And also just like, I couldn't agree more with that I feel like this whole season I was expecting either the Twitter folks or just the people writing articles about the show to be referencing those departures, and like I really haven't seen it. I mean, if anything, it's been to talk about something else and not about a void left. And that's kind of what I was wanting really bad with the show. I didn't think the show went through a rut or anything. I mean, it had its moments in the Trump years that were still true to SNL, but like maybe not as entertaining. But it was carried by those performers so much that I really didn't bother me. So now that we're out of that and we have a fresh start, I think Heidi Gardner is like perfect for this cast. And we talk about Mikey Day being kind of a bridge to the new era. And I'm like, I'm ready for the Heidi era to start. I don't think she's a bridge from one to the next. It's like, this is her time right now. And I'm so happy about that. Victoria, as somebody who, talking about Second City and talking about, being a talented female sketch performer. What do you think about Heidi Gardner?
Heidi Gardner is one of a kind. And I think if you look at the leading ladies of Saturday Night Live, from Tina Fey to Amy Poehler, and then you see like a Kirstin Wiig, and then Kate McKinnon, she fits that, not in their style, because all of them are very different. I actually don't like to compare them because they're all incredibly distinctive and unique in their own in their own talents. However, she fits that in that she's able to step up and be multifaceted, as previously mentioned. She's been able to play a teenage girl, but then she can also turn around and play this incredible Italian mother, which kind of hits like too close on the nose sometimes with like having the boy be the favorite, but we'll talk about that in a different episode. She's willing to lead this. And I think Ego is alongside her in her own way too. But I think right now, I don't want to say there's a void, but just by tenure and being a woman, this is the platform for her right now to step up and shine. And she does it seamlessly. She's since she started, she's been an incredible performer. But as also mentioned, she's kind of in that factory where she's been trained. She's had the training to do all this, and hence why they hired her. She's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And about 61% of her time this season has been in live sketches. I just always have a soft spot for people that bring it live so much, and 34 times this season. And again, live sketches, that's not including cold open or monologues or update, which are also live segments, of course. But yeah, I mean, seeing Heidi break out this season, it's just not a surprise at all. I just wanted to talk about her because I'm a big fan, and I like her versatility, that I don't even think about her with somebody else. So obviously Kate and 80 are so synonymous together, and they did so much apart. But like, you think about what a Kate and 80 sketch looks like, or even like a Bowen and Cecily sketch, or a Pete and Chris Redd, or something like. I don't really think of Heidi with somebody, which I think is a good thing. So when she does work with somebody else, it's it just always works to me anyway. And thinking about working with Mikey Day, and I every time I think I write or say Mikey Day, I keep thinking of her as that aunt going, Mikey Day, come over here. So I just keep thinking of that. Kirstin, do you have something to say?
I was going to say she continues to surprise. So yeah, I mean, as great as they are, this is not to take anything away from them, but if Kate McKinnon showed up in a sketch or on an update, I could probably guess where she was going to take it. And then Heidi will show up as that, DJ behind, I forget the character's name. It was in Martin Short's DJ. And she was, spilling her wine everywhere or champagne. And like, she takes things to silly places that are very unpredictable. And I think it's that ability to continue to surprise us with the choices that she makes that make her incredibly likable and reliable in a sketch. Because when things either go sideways or you need to turn it up to an 11, she's someone who knows to make the choices that are going to be successful, or she's been trained to and is lucky to have made those.
It's that improv training. We paid a lot of money for it.
Right. And as I mentioned, probably second best episode of her career. So her first was last season, the Gerard Carmichael episode. She had 11 minutes, 42 seconds. So 10 minutes, 9 this episode. So I think no one's surprised, as we mentioned, her being a big Chiefs fan and being integral to, to the process of getting Travis to host. Made a ton of sense. She also had a huge episode with Emma Thompson in season 44. So yeah, and she also, I noticed I've been tracking post monologue sketches this season, and she's first in the cast. She's appeared in 57% of those. And so I'm like, I think that I did a segment a couple weeks ago and just about how I think SNL places a lot of value in that sketch because, if you don't know who the host is or you're there just for the host, the first sketch, it's typically live, monologue, commercial, come back with a sketch. And if that's not going to hook you in, you might not keep watching the show. So I think Heidi Gardner or Ego Wodum, who are both like, and Keenan and Mikey, those top four, do those sketches the most. And it just, makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, but I'm looking one more time. Yeah. The monologue appearance was with Michael B. Jordan. So that's what, if anyone want to write that, what that is, 29 seconds of her season is in the monologue is right there.
And what a good monologue that was. But yeah, again, another episode for us to do.
I have to say, Kirstin, referencing, I think maybe my least favorite sketch of the season with that Martin Short talk show.
Really?
But I think Heidi Gardner was the best part of it.
I mean, it wasn't fantastic, but he's just so doing his Martin Short thing. But yeah, she was hilarious, getting more and more intoxicated, and it was ridiculous, sure. But yeah, she was fun to watch.
Right. Yeah, so there's like two pretty big narratives going on in the SNL world, and one of them was pretty much breaking news today. We kind of saw it coming, but I'm reading from Variety right now. They broke the story. The post-production editors behind Saturday Night Live are ready to strike and have set a deadline of April 1st. And April 1st is significant because that's the next date of a live SNL show. They'll be back on the 1st, 8th, and 15th as of right now. So barring an agreement with producer NBC Universal, the 12 to 20 people that are in the editing crew members have announced that they intend to halt work and disrupt the show should bargaining sessions in their bid for pay inequities and health benefits continue to stall. So that's kind of really like, that's a huge deal. We talk about pre-tapes a lot on the show and how important they are. So, we remember the writer's strike that happened, around season 38 or something like that. I know it was when the Michael Phelps episode, that premiere or whatever, how that impacted the show way back when they had hosts like with Eugene Levy, and I think Gilda was going to come back, and like that interrupted. So, these things they do happen. So it's not just a threat of a strike. It really can happen and has happened, and it has impacted the show. It shortened seasons, all that kind of stuff. So, Kirstin, just, opening take kind of on this story, because not something we talk about on this show often, but it just happened today, and I couldn't not cover it.
Absolutely. Clearly, I support people getting the pay that they are due. From what I understand, and based on what I read, they are underpaid when compared to their peers, which is a shame. SNL has certainly enjoyed a lot of its recent success to the quality and the volume of pre-tapes that it does. It spawned an entire new life for them by way of guess it was Lazy Sunday back in the day, and opened up an entire new format for how they deliver content. I know they'd done it in the past, but that with the advent of being able to post things on YouTube, etc., like this breathed new life into something. And so it's become a critical part of the show. And whether this is the team that says we recognize that now, so hey, step up, or this has always been a thing, I don't know, but I do support it. What I'm unaware of is does this mean that there won't be pre-tapes? I mean, I think about PDD, they're used to doing their own stuff and they do it really well. So, the conflict that they may have as performers that, does the show go on? Do they still produce their own stuff or do they put their foot down? And I can imagine that's a really stressful thing to be a part of when you're there and in the show. And yes, you are bringing up all of those pre-tapes, and there are so many, and we love so many of them. And I also think we get to watch those ones over and over again, because for a long time you couldn't just watch a sketch. You saw it live, and unless you PVR'd it, if anyone still does that, that was it. I used to use a VCR back in the day, but now you can see them all over the place. But the pre-tapes were more readily available. So we really developed a fondness for those, and those grew quite popular because you could share them among friends. All this to say is, I think we all agree they are a critical and crucial and favorite part of the show. And if they aren't supporting their internal teams that help deliver that work, well, then they kind of have to step up.
Right. And yeah, I think it is a possibility that we could have an SNL with no pre-tapes if they don't settle this. And it has happened before as far as having an episode with no pre-tapes. Last time was season 34. It was in September of 2008. The Anna Faris episode had no pre-tapes. Before that, 2005, season 30, the Topher Grace episode. So it has been, 15 years since we've had a situation that which we might see come up. And if anyone thinks that with technology and that pre-tapes are a newer part of the show, like go back and watch season 1, like, having fake commercials. The very first pre-tape was the New Dad sketch with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. So it's very much, and they had the films by Albert Brooks. Like, so short films and that type of sketch has been part of the show since day one. So it's nothing new just because of, YouTube and that type of thing. Like Kirstin mentioned that when Lazy Sunday came out, like I think the second or third SNL digital short, like that was like so big on YouTube because that was such a new medium at that time. So like you said, Kirstin, it is such a big way that SNL reaches an audience. So that's a huge part. And I did just throw up on the screen the 32 pre-tapes we've seen this season. So we've had 77 live sketches. Again, not counting the monologue as a live sketch or the cold open, because, we take those as granted that they'll always be live. We can update as well. So, Victoria, I want to have you weigh in on just the importance of the film unit, and then maybe, talk about pre-tapes this season in general that you might like.
Yeah, as a super fan of the show, and I've been a super fan for just about my entire life, it's disappointing to see and hear about it. But I think because the actors and the cast has given them tremendous support as well. They wore those like contract now shirts. And even before, when 80 was on the show, she's worn union shirts. What they're asking for isn't extraordinary. They're just asking for, equal pay and I don't know, things that employees deserve from their employer. So I think that Variety article too, they talked about working as fast as they can to come to a solution. I'm confident that they will and that they'll do the right thing. Not Second City, Saturday Night Live in the last few years or so has, really, I think starting with that 2016 post-election episode where Kate McKinnon came out and started singing Hallelujah, they have been standing up for what's right. And that's been their thing. And that's kind of like what's driven some people away from the show because they don't want to see the propaganda or whatever it is that's my impression of those people. I'm so sorry. But it wouldn't make sense that they don't come to an agreement by April 1st. And that is equitable and fair to these employees. So I'm incredibly hopeful for it too. It's just disappointing that this is a conversation we're having in 2023. nonetheless, the significance of these folks is, I'm looking at this list, and some of my favorite all-time things are on this list. The Nicole Kidman AMC ad, anything Please Don't Destroy has been just mwah, chef's kiss. It would just be very unfortunate if they can't, come to an agreement and just be fair with their employees who work tremendously hard.
Yep, they're hot off the heels too of Mario, because all of the conversation online was, there was nostalgia, but was so focused on the production quality of that. That was the headline, and that's got to come into play. They're clearly attracting some great talent on that team, and or that team is just evolving based on the amount of work they do, but their post-production skill level is producing things like that. So they have some great focus and buzz right now from an external perspective, which I hope will support their cause and make a strong case for what's fair.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up, Kirstin, about the Mario sketch, because that was one of the sketches that they did highlight the behind the scenes of. And once in a while they'll post, like they did for, I believe, the Oscar the Grouch David Harbour pre-tape, like the actual live clock. Like these are post-production people, so these aren't necessarily people who are working on set, but they're the ones who are creating it literally down to the hour. Sometimes these pre-tapes are not done at dress. They're being finished at 11:45. The show is already 15 minutes in, and they're, hitting enter on their final edit of the pre-tape, which is just, incredibly stressful. And like you said, they are attracting incredible talent, because these people, I can't imagine anyone could do what they do better. So, good luck finding, back in the day, they had an NFL referee strike, and they had to bring in replacement refs. It did not go so well. So I would hate to see them bring in some amateur editors that could not do what these people do. So this all comes after they organized and they joined the Motion Picture Editors Guild, which is part of IATSE. So that's how this all started, and now here we are. They said that they voted that they could strike, and now they've set a deadline to strike if they are not, met with what they need. So we'll pivot to, more about the show and lighter aspects of it, but very happy we could discuss it like this. So like I said, there's been 77 sketches and 32 pre-tapes this season. So I put them up on the screen here, and let's just talk about, because this is a numbers show, like, PDD was just mentioned. Of course, that would affect them. They appear almost exclusively in a pre-taped situation, but who else would it affect in the show? So obviously, I'm looking right here. I'm looking at the number of appearances and pre-tapes and the screen time, and it's Chloe. So Chloe Fineman is a talented pre-tape actress and voice actress. So we've seen her 18 times, or heard her voice 18 times in pre-tapes this season. Victoria, you mentioned the Nicole Kidman ad, also the Jennifer Coolidge one she starred in, and I'm looking at the list right now to see if I can pick a favorite, and it might be the Christmas Epiphany. It was the Andrew Dismukes written sketch with Austin Butler. I loved Kirstin, do you have a favorite pre-tape this season, maybe?
Oh, I can't choose. But you know what I've got to say, where my eyes were, is that you've got Marcelo and Punky and Molly and Michael and Devin with great numbers here, which is showing you where they're getting exposure from. And that helps. If you're not getting on live, you're getting great exposure here, which is fantastic. So sorry, my eyes were over there, but I'm going to look at the sketches now because there are so many. I mean,
someone like Molly, their percentage of their own screen time is actually highest in pre-tapes, because think about Molly's pre-tape with PDD, something like that. And a lot of that is availability. So rookies in the cast, like, they might be available to film while the leading players are off writing or off doing something else. Like, a lot of that is availability, because they do film these very late at night and later in the week too. So, they're doing read through on a Wednesday, and you see the photo they post, and meanwhile, they have to build sets and do all that stuff the next 2 days. So a lot of times these are filmed late Friday, the very earliest late Thursday, but usually on Friday into Saturday.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because
Yep.
someone like Molly or Marcelo, like they do get more exposure in those situations.
Yep. By the way, Be Real, loved it. Still think about that one. So well done. I keep thinking of Bowen on the ground when the phone rings. Like that one also gets a chef's kiss. And anything PDD. I'm all about PDD. Yeah.
Victoria, you have one?
This is a tough I mean, like I said, a few of my, I think, all-time favorite pre-tapes or, these segments are on here. Jake from State Farm, without a doubt, like
Unreal.
Let's see. The new cast advice. I think that was my favorite thing that they've ever done with new cast members ever. I think that was such a clever way to incorporate them and introduce us to them. And then, of course, the Nicole Kidman AMC ad, because I still go to the movies. So I see it every time I go to the movies. So it was great for me.
We don't have that in Canada. So that one, by the way, like meant nothing
over your
to
head.
me. Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay.
I've also never seen the real thing. I've only seen the Chloe version.
Oh my gosh. And when I saw it, I was like, that is so brilliant. I would have never thought to do that because it's just like, again, it's just something you see before you go into a real movie theater and not from your living room watching Netflix. And then what else? Keenan
also
and
have
Kelly.
to say, oh yeah, that's a good one too. For sure with Kiki. Is last week we had the Woody Harrelson episode. Wasn't the most highly regarded episode, but we look back on, I could watch 5 years from now, see either the PDD stakeout, which might be maybe my favorite PDD, and Woody Harrelson was fantastic in it, and the Cologuard sketch. So those two pre-tapes, I think, brought that episode, in my opinion, probably from like a D to a C minus, if I'm being honest. So something like that can really save an episode when you have in the can a couple pre-tapes, 2, maybe 3, and they cut one. That's the weakest of the 3. It can really save an episode because sometimes the sketch is so good on paper and it does not work in the room, either just from that room or it doesn't work on TV and it works in the room. So sometimes a well-placed pre-tape can really like do a heavy lifting on this show. And like I said, they have highlighted the work of these people many times. The House of the Dragon with Chappelle, like the incredible CG they were doing in that sketch quickly, like literally creating a dragon to like, light Dave Chappelle's crack pipe. Like imagine being asked to do that on Friday. Like, all right, we need you to make a dragon to light the crack pipe. Like, go. And they get it done. And so, the HBO Mario Kart was also, the most watched sketch of that episode with Pedro Pascal. So,
well, yeah, because now they're not just looking for editors; they're looking for CG artists and all sorts of other skill sets, and that's what's changing everything. By the way, my takeaway from the Woody episode and what you're talking about when you reference, he's great in these 2 pre-tapes is he just seems to be scripted. We don't want live Woody.
Do you think we got live Woody in the monologue, Kirstin?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you listened to the roundtable, but I have my notes here from when I watched it. And I literally wrote, name one person who doesn't like Woody. And then I just like, I was like, what? I wrote what with multiple A's. Like my jaw was on the floor. I didn't know what was happening. So yeah, he needs to be scripted, edited. He needs to be neat and tidy in the editing room. Live Woody is too much of a rascal.
That I wish I was on for the Woody Harrelson episode. I just wanted to talk about the monologue.
I mean, tell us, give us the elevator pitch.
Talk about it now.
Yeah.
Please.
Just my only question is like, what was that? It's just, I feel like the writing was there. It was the delivery that kind of like, I don't know, man. And then the potential comparison to like vaccines, I was like, well, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. That's what I wrote. I was like, rambling rant. I was like, okay, wait, is he rambling? Okay, no, is he just storytelling? And then I wrote, is he actually an anti-vaxxer? And I think, and I mentioned this on the previous show, was he led us on such a long journey. Like, it was epic. We were going to Sauron to get the ring. And then all of a sudden at the end, we were duped. There was nothing there. And I think that's what changed that energy for us, right? Is all of a sudden he was no longer in the trust tree. And I was like, no, Woody, you did a dirty on us. And I don't know how I feel about that. And I think that's what messed with all of the energy of that entire cast, where I imagine, Victoria, you could attest to this as someone who's obviously in sketches. Like, you need to trust your fellow performers, and you need to feel like you're all looking out for each other's best interests. And if someone goes up there and, does something radical that surprises you, you're going to wonder what's going to happen, and you do not feel as comfortable. And that's all about confidence and comfort, right? And I can't imagine he did good things to make the rest of the cast feel amazing about being live on television with a firecracker.
And I think the monologue is the first opportunity. So there are a bunch of people who watch that episode who don't necessarily know who Woody Harrelson is, or maybe perhaps are only watching because they knew who he was. And that monologue sets the tone. I think even after the cold open, it sets the tone for the rest of the episode of who you are and who you're going to be in this show and what you're going to do. And so, I mean, it was also, you can also look at that as a blessing because the bar became low. So anything after that could have been incredibly impressive. It was just, for me, it was a lot of, it could have been made short and sweeter. And I think that episode too I was looking for more for a 5-timers situation.
Do yourself a favor, go back and watch old Woody, and you'll feel even stronger about how womp that one was, because he's done some great stuff. Monologue was 7 minutes. And then you look at Travis, and his was neat and tidy. It was funny. He got the family in there, checked the box on how he's loved the show, and talked about the Super Bowl, name checked his brother, had a few good moments, like in and out, get it done, but checked all the boxes. Fantastic.
And correct me if I'm wrong, was the last time Woody hosted in 2014?
No, it was season 45 premiere with Billie Eilish. So that would have been, late 2018 into 19.
Okay.
No, late 2019, because then COVID stopped the season.
Yeah, it was September 2019. Yeah.
I do have a fun story about Woody hosting. So I was actually in New York City. My university did a trip to New York for like 2 days. And I remember I was sitting in my hotel room, and we had to do like I don't know if I'm allowed, if I'm going to get in trouble, whatever, I graduated. I was in my hotel room. We had a buddy system. Like, you couldn't leave by yourself. And my buddy, one of my gal pals, was knocked out. It's walking around New York City all day is tiring. I remember sitting in my hotel room watching Woody Harrelson's monologue. This was 2014. And I didn't watch that show. I didn't watch that episode, because during his monologue, I'm like, oh my gosh, 30 Rock is just a few blocks away. What am I doing here? Left my hotel room. And I was like, maybe I'll get to meet. I didn't know about barricades. I didn't know about waiting outside. I was like, I'm going to go to 30 Rock and see what happens. And it was well worth it. I met Kate McKinnon that night. I met Pete Davidson that night, and met the entire cast. So my association with Woody with the show is usually pretty good, but that monologue took me out. But like I said, the PDD of that episode kind of redeemed him. But quickly to
and
go back
Cologuard. Cologuard was fantastic.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And quickly go back to pre-tapes, though. I also want to give a shout out to Big Boys, because that had over 8.7, I'm doing numbers, 8.7 million views on YouTube. And if you look at the other videos on YouTube, they like the highest in the past few videos that they've put on YouTube is like maybe 4, almost 5 million. That's almost double that. So, a good pre-tape's a good pre-tape. Also, I'm waiting for that song to be on Spotify, SNL.
I know they just released, Watch from the Corner. We got to get Big Boys.
Yeah.
Victoria, that would have been season 40. So November 15th, 2014. Woody Harrelson hosted. So
that was Pete Davidson's 21st birthday.
Nice.
Okay, numbers. I got them. Got it down.
Yep. 2-1. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, hey, we're talking about Travis Kelce episode, but and I happy to talk about
Yeah.
that Woody episode because
Yeah.
honestly, I think I mentioned one of my like wrapping up thoughts last week on the show was, you have a first timer, it's also an athlete, expectations should be low. But we have, Woody Harrelson coming in, 5-timer, it's gonna be great. Then maybe him, and then we'll have Jenna Ortega to wrap up the run. So, two younger people who have never hosted the show before. But then I was like, when that episode happened, I was like, wow, Travis Kelce's kind of on the hot seat now because like I wouldn't want to follow that show as much as I'd want to follow like, your average SNL show because it just like I said, it was talked about kind of negatively. But yeah, we're gonna pivot to the other SNL news, not necessarily news, but there was a great write up in GQ on Monday about the featured players. And so, thinking about the featured players this year, I mean, I love to analyze people's rookie seasons because you can go back, it's all there, and now we have the hindsight, the kind of like you go back and watch it, you have the dramatic irony of being like, I know what will happen to this cast member. So at the time you didn't know that they would be a one and done cast member or they'd become the next Kate McKinnon. But now we look back and now we do know that. So this year we have, 6 featured players. 2 of them are sophomores, which is James Austin Johnson and Sarah Sherman, and 4 rookies, which are Marcelo, Michael, Molly, and Devin. So they make up, 6 out of 16 of the cast and 6 out of 14 if you want to count out, Colin Jost and Michael Che. So already they're contributing at a higher level just already right there. But I looked back and I'm like, how much contribution of screen time have featured players had? And I'm looking at season 45, 10%. Season 46, 14%. Season 47, 14% again. And now this season 48, and we're 14 episodes in, 24% of the screen time has been dedicated to featured players. So it's like, you could talk about how, the cast was bigger last year and all that kind of stuff. It's, it's obvious, but it's just like, I like to see the raw number that we have seen the featured players contribute literally a quarter of the content that we've seen on the screen. So I did put up the rookie numbers because, I can't hold our 4 rookies, can't hold it against them. They haven't finished their season yet because we're still in it. So I looked at Bowen Yang and Chloe from season 45, Andrew, Punky, and Lauren from 46, and then JJ, Sarah, and Aristotle from last season, how they looked 14 episodes into their SNL career. So I'll read out the numbers a little later, but I want to go to Kirstin right now and just say, what do you think about these rookies overall? Because I've never talked to you about the show until tonight. And just, do you think it's been refreshing to see not only new faces, but like, I think the vibe of the cast has never been more positive that I've seen, at least I'm not maybe never, but in the past, say 5 or 6 years. And I do encourage the listeners to go read that article if you haven't already, because you get to know the 6 of them pretty well. And it's all just kind of questions and responses. And it's, it's goofy, it's light, but they really talk about the SNL experience a lot. And the opening line compares the show to a sports team, in which Lorne Michaels is the coach. Molly calls it the Super Bowl of comedy. So it was right up my alley as someone who hosts the world's only SNL sports talk radio show. So Kirstin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great crew of people. SNL was getting some criticism in years past about how, bloated the cast was. That's a horrible word, but how big the roster was. Large roster of people. And, how do you get your screen time when you're in that situation? And then, they get Cecily's and Kate's and very reliable people, and you're really fighting for screen time. And so there are some people that probably were, collateral damage in that, and that they just didn't get that right chance at that right time, in that right moment with the right script. And it didn't reflect well on them. And it's really through no fault of their own. That's just numbers game. The fact that this is a slimmer cast now, I think, is great because we want to see them and it's giving them that opportunity. I also think the diversity is finally starting to happen. And that's what makes a huge energy shift, a talent shift, a perspective shift. It brings in all these great people who have something to offer, and it's giving them screen time. So I'm personally thrilled to see that happen. And I when I look at these faces, you do think that they're going to be around. Like, unfortunately, like a Lauren Holt, and some folks like that, you didn't necessarily see long time on their face, but I maybe will make a prediction that all of these folks will be there for at least 2 more years. I was surprised by Aristotle, I will say that. So I'm thrilled to see them. I'm thrilled to see them get screen time, and I think it's all well worth it. I will say this time around too, the transparency around their experience feels different. I think Victoria, you referenced that, like the pre-tape they did, where we saw them kind of talk about their first impression of being there. Like, this type of exposure feels new to me, at least, and I like it. It's probably made them more endearing to the audience because we feel like we're on the journey with them, and that's only a good thing for their likability and their opportunity on the show.
Absolutely. Well said. And a point that was being made, because I couldn't help but make it, being the numbers guy, was that we talked a lot last year about the rookies because James Austin Johnson was popping off the screen. His first episode, he's playing Biden in the cold open. He's in everything, and had one of the best debuts in SNL history. And then meanwhile, like, we're kind of going along. We saw Sarah do update. We saw Aristotle do the laugh and tosh after he had done Angelo. So it's like things were happening. And as the season went on, it was like, okay, like, here's 1 out of 3 completely being ignored. And now, like, Sarah's kind of like inching up, and James Austin Johnson's like playing Trump, playing Biden. And so, like, now going in this season with like kind of a little jaded maybe by the treatment of the rookies, right away, Michael Longfellow debuts on Update like Pete Davidson did. And then we had Marcelo and Devin in the next 2 episodes. So it was like, okay, maybe they've learned that, like, we should get to know them earlier and, give them a chance because there is more room. So Victoria, like, just I think that's maybe the headline of this season, if I had to say, has been the featured players. And I mean that, like, honestly. I think it's been awesome, and the vibes have been good in the cast. It seems like there's good synergy, and I don't know who I'm going to see paired up together, all these type of things. So I just want to get your take on all 6 of them, or the rookies, or just how they've been used so far.
Yeah, this is an incredibly impressive group of people. I remember I audibly said, wow, when JJ's first episode, he's in the cold open. Like, that was incredibly impressive and well deserved. I mean, they're hiring folks based on talent. Why aren't we using them more? And I think the 4 newest ones, so Marcelo, Michael, Molly, and Devin, are, I think, meshing really well together. They've already made their marks. Sarah Sherman's little weekend update spiel that she just did last week for her birthday is incredible. They're talented. And I think also, I've pointed this out before, but these 4 newer folks have a lot of stand-up background, more so than sketch or improv, at least from what I've seen. And
all
then,
6 of the featured players are all stand-ups.
yes. And actually, I saw Sarah Sherman way back years ago in Chicago, and I don't remember what she said. I don't remember actually anyone else from that that set of folks at that stand-up show that I went to in Chicago, but I remembered her. She was incredibly eccentric and fun and loud, and she is who she is. And so when I saw her join the cast, I was like, well deserved. She's very funny. But yeah, no, this is an incredibly talented group of people. I do miss Aristotle so much. I'm very bummed about that too. I just, like, Tosh was so brilliant. Angela was brilliant. I think there is incredible potential for him, but I'm also very excited to see what he's going to do outside of SNL. But that being said, I'm glad that they're giving these new folks their flowers and giving them the opportunity to shine on, and empowering them to do so, it seems like. And it's what you should be doing when new people are joining your organization or your team or your cast, whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's some humility, right? Like, we can learn something from the young folks, which seems
Yep.
a little bit different. Before, they very much revered the tenured folks, and now they are recognizing that, hey, these kids have something and are quite funny, and they have a following. And Yeah, exactly. Let's
And-
give them the mic.
And that's how you attract new audiences, because a lot of people grew up with SNL. This is, something from even before they were born. And now this is going to have to continue, right? It's not going to end season 40. Okay, hold on. Let's knock on wood before I get too ahead of myself there. But you know what I mean? There's comedy for younger folks, younger millennials, zillennials, Gen Z, that's all online. And they've done a good job of kind of dissecting some of that and bringing that into the show and speaking that language, while also maintaining the traditional, training of comedy and sketches and following, traditional is a weird word, but traditional formats of it too. And this cast has something there, and they're all very unique in their own ways. And I don't think we've seen anything like them before. And to Kirstin's point, the diversity is so important. We're like, this is a very diverse group of people, and I hope and pray, and that's part of the scholarship I got too, was a diversity scholarship. I hope that they bring more of that in. I'm also, and I'm just going to be quite frank, Aristotle was my Middle Eastern representation, and he's no more. But before him was Nassim Pedrad, and also, so maybe it's me. Put me in coach next year.
Yeah, there you go. There's a spot to fill.
You heard it here
By the way,
first.
yes,
For all the
having said all this,
Habibis.
we need more Molly, right? More
Yes.
Molly.
More
Right.
Molly.
More Molly.
More. Yeah.
We've been talking about
Punky Johnson.
Yes,
Holy
more
cow.
Punky. Yeah.
Holy
Punky
cow,
was
we need more
awesome on
Punky.
Update this week too.
They
I'm
should
so
call
happy
up
that
and
she
just
was on.
start, AD-Kating it.
Yeah. No, I was going to say this too. I want to make this clear. We need more Punky Johnson on this show. Please don't shut her out. She's so funny, and don't pigeonhole her either. I'm not, for the sake of everything, I'm not going to say it, but I've noticed they've pigeonholed her to certain things, and she's way more talented and is incredibly versatile. Just give her the opportunity to shine. Gosh darn it.
Absolutely. I mean, last week I talked about how Punky got the longest segment on this show talking about the cast, because it was just basically just saying more Punky for, like Travis Kelce's monologue, more.
Exactly. More.
That was about Punky. People don't know that, but it was about Punky.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for the audio listeners, I got to do my job here and let you know what's on the screen. Is I listed the screen time and appearances of their first 14 episodes. So of course at the top was JJ, 50 minutes even through 14 episodes, and his rookie season. Again, this is not this year. This was his rookie season. Appeared 35 times. Devin Walker, second highest rookie screen time, of these since the Bowen and Chloe class. So he's had 33, 25 so far in 39 appearances. Bowen Yang in his rookie season was season 45, 33 minutes, 23 seconds with 38 appearances. Michael Longfellow, 31, 27. He's tied with Devin with 39 appearances. Marcelo Hernandez, 29 minutes, 57 seconds so far, 34 appearances. Sarah Sherman last year at this point, 27-41 with 27 appearances. Chloe Feynman in her rookie year, season 45, was 24 minutes, 33 with 37 appearances. Molly, so far, they've had 23 minutes, 29 seconds and 21 appearances. Andrew Dismukes in his rookie season. And, that was election year, a lot going on. And that was the small room for COVID and all that stuff. So I'm not surprised to see Andrew, Lauren, and Punky here. Andrew had 22 minutes, 29 appearances. Lauren Holt had 18 minutes, 32 seconds, and 26 appearances. Punky Johnson had 14:50 with 22 appearances. And in last place was Aristotle with 12 minutes, 6 seconds, and 22 appearances. So if anyone's looking at Molly and being like, I hope they come back next year and, they're not having a good season, they actually are having a good season. I mean, that's more screen time than Andrew, Lauren, Punky, and Aristotle had. So it's not a bad season just because they're 4th out of 4 rookies. So I just want to make that clear that having 23 and a half minutes so far is pretty good. So I like to see them maybe lead a live sketch again. The Hello Kitty one they were in, and then the Nun sketch with Aubrey Plaza, right? So that's 2 live sketches that we've seen Molly in. Kirstin?
Yeah, my favorite Molly was the pre-tape where she talked about being, I think it was like an assassin, or she was, it was
Yeah,
like
the new cast sketch.
Yeah, do this hit
Brendan
for.
Gleeson.
That was amazing. That's when she made a very big impression on me, and I want more.
Absolutely.
I think they're also in the new A League of Their Own. Is that what it is? No,
I'm not sure.
Whatever. Ignore me.
So as
Looking
always,
it up.
we wrap up by the numbers by looking at the season as a whole, because it's very easy to talk all night about Woody Harrelson's monologue or the Cologuard sketch or things like that. We like to look at a macro level. Season 48. There's a lot of numbers on the screen right now. And basically, the last segment we just did, I talked about appearances and screen time. So it's very easy to get caught up in one of those numbers and say, this is good, this is bad. But this is why I invented this stat that kind of takes everything into consideration, because there's so many things that you'd want to accomplish on SNL. Victoria, if you are on SNL, wouldn't you want to have a recurring character, or say Live from New York? You know,
I
things
think I
like
would.
that. Yeah, so
I think I would.
or appear in a cold open period, or appear in Weekend Update, things like that. So I just took it upon myself to put it in one number, because it's very easy also, I'll admit, to slant a stat in your favor. So to make someone look good, it's pretty easy to do that when I have access to all these numbers. So I wanted to make it one thing and one thing only. So our current power rankings of the season 48 cast are: number 1, Keenan, followed by Heidi, who's not from number 3. She passed Bowen this week. Then Bowen's in number 3, Mikey Day, Ego Odom, Chloe Feynman, Colin Jost, James Austin Johnson, Sarah Sherman in 9th, and 10th, Michael Che, Andrew Dismukes, Michael Longfellow at 13, Devin Walker, 14, Marcelo, 15, Punky Johnson, and 16, Molly. So if you want to see their actual numbers, it's all color-coded. You can see what episodes were their best, weren't their best, all that kind of stuff. So, Kirstin, your first time seeing some power rankings. It's pretty intimidating sometimes, but is anything surprising to you? Because obviously we see Keenan at the top every week, but other than that, what do you see here?
Yeah, no real surprises. Keenan at the top, obvious. I didn't know Heidi would be second, I suppose, but I get it. I think we can have a Bowen appreciation moment. Like, what a stellar add to the cast. He was a writer. He came on strong with Trade Daddy character on Weekend Update. Yes. And then his Iceberg, like really, really out of the gate, a fantastic, now I think Emmy nominated, right? Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, he was nominated as a featured player for an Emmy.
Yeah, member of the cast. So I'm just going to take a moment to say I'm thrilled to see him there at number 3. Mikey Day. Yeah, there's no real surprises. I think this all tracks with how I feel watching the show. It'll be interesting to see this, if we were to map it, to see how it moves. I'd be curious to see that. Who has the most movement over time? Although I guess the color coding does that, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I can do a logarithmic chart, or linear trace all that stuff.
Do some of that nerdy stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm here, Kirstin.
All right.
So yeah, exactly. That's kind of why the impetus for this stat was, because I really wanted to see like a career on SNL and how it tracks, because like I said, it can be kind of deceptive to be like, oh, well, they're in the cold open, so like they got the most screen time. It's like, well, yeah, that's obvious, but to see the quality of their roles, if they're the leader of the sketch or just like a one-liner, or if they're always in 10-to-1s versus being, like I said, the post monologue sketch, things like that are all factored in this. So I'd be happy to talk with you, Kirstin, about how it's been tracked so far.
Oh, for sure. And which one was episode 8, by the way? Because that one, there's a lot of red at the bottom there. I'm just curious. Do you know which one that was off the top of your head?
I want to say Chappelle.
Oh, that was the Chappelle show, clearly. Okay.
Because again, long monologue, and then number 8 was Stephen Marty. Number 6 is Chappelle.
I mean, for both, right? Like they both, you had really a lot of screen time going to those folks and a lot of energy around those hosts. So that makes sense.
Right. Got double the hosts. So, and that was, kind of the penultimate Cecily goodbye episode. So no surprise there as well. Yeah. Now, so Michael Longfellow, shout out from that episode. And he had a great Chappelle episode.
Yeah. What was number 12? Sorry, I don't.
Pedro Pascal.
Swoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I like seeing where there was great representation among the whole cast, where there's a lot of green in there, and what that says about the dynamic of that episode.
But I have been tracking lately, like the total usage of featured players versus the rep cast and the whole cast. I kind of really just like interested as I go back to find more about like what maybe cast usage can tell me about the usage of the host, because like I'm just very fast. I mean, we'll never know until we get, the oral history of some episodes after people pass away or enough time goes by.
Or Victoria starts vlogging from the set. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Just, start
I'd be curious to know too, like if we start to dig into the host, and if they are an actor, a stand-up, an athlete, and what that means for you as a cast member, because you could theoretically hypothesize that if an athlete's coming up, those are episodes I maybe have a better chance of getting on air for. Like, who did they get excited for? Because they're going to get excited about people personally, much like Heidi, who I did not know she was a big fan. I know that now, but clearly that made her a year. But if you're a noob, what type of host do you want to see on here? And also, is, our first-time hosts better for you? Are 5-timers better for you? Like, I don't know if you've ever pulled those numbers, but let's nerd out.
Yeah, I mean, great points. And that's what I've been tracking. And a segment we did a couple seasons ago on this podcast was just about how does the female cast fare when they have a male host? How does the male cast fare when you have a female host? Meaning, like, do they do better because you think like, oh, it's a guy, they're going to do more like bro humor, or if it's a woman, they're going to do more feminine humor. It's like, actually not the case. I kind of ended up finding out that it's kind of beneficial to the opposite sex of the cast for the host, because they're playing off that, whether it's in a sketch where they play a couple or not, just like. And so things like that. And I do categorize every episode a million ways, including like actors, stand-ups, athletes, politicians, or anything like that. So I can look into that for sure. And yeah, it's kind of what I want to do. I love probability, clearly. I love percentages and increases. So if you do want to check out this graph, you can see who had a good episode against average, that's Heidi, Bowen, Mikey, Colin, Sarah, Che, Devin, and Punky had above their average episodes, and the rest of the cast had a below average episode. Doesn't mean they had a bad episode, just compared to their season, it wasn't as high as they normally have been. So, things like that. I can tell you, I can look up what is the percentage chance that we'll see Keenan in the next sketch. I could tell you that. So like things like that, I'm working more on, because like you said, Kirstin, I would love to see, like, okay, we get the host announcement. Like, this is going to be a great week for Sarah. Like, I do want to get to that level, so I'm working on it. Victoria, I want to hear from you.
I thought Keenan, I don't know. I feel like Keenan's been fizzling out, unless it's just me, because the numbers show otherwise. But I feel like I haven't seen as much Keenan this season, or he's played more so. What's the word? Supporting roles in sketches. But other than that, I mean, Heidi, I like we said earlier, I think we knew was going to be kind of top ranking. Like I said, I was expecting her to be just on screen with Travis Kelce the entire time during the show, and just like have equal like time on screen, because she was at the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl. He's hosting. Like, what a dream for her. I'm really happy for her. If anyone deserves happiness.
She got to snuggle in bed with him in the sketch.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
She got to hug up his brother.
That would be like me if like the Backstreet Boys are on the show. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It
really?
just-
I would Pascal for me. Pedro Pascal.
oh
Yeah.
gosh. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah. And Michael B. Jordan and
Get in line. Yeah, get in line.
woo,
Right?
yeah. No, but like I've been such a big Backstreet Boys fan since I was like 4 years old. So
Have they
it was
ever
like-
been on the show?
I think as musical guests, but not
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah. So they're going on tour next year, and they invited NSYNC to join them. But we'll talk about that later.
I like this talk because I don't get enough of this on this podcast. But yeah, Backstreet Boys season 23 and 24. So in 98 and 99, Backstreet Boys
Wow.
were on the show.
I peaked
Due for a
during
comeback.
those 2 years. Yeah, I peaked during those 2 years.
They're after my time. My boy band was Duran Duran.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Aging myself there, but yeah, they were my
They
boy
also
bands.
were on in season 8, Kirstin.
Oh yeah, look at that. Going way back. That makes
Season
sense.
8.
Yeah, 10
Single
days
digit.
from right now, it'll be the 40th anniversary of Duran Duran on SNL.
Wow.
Amazing.
March 19th, 1983.
Wow.
That's so
Probably when I
poetic.
started watching the show.
Yeah, season 8. That was an interesting time in SNL.
Yeah.
For sure. Anyway,
Wow.
this has been a blast talking with you two. Love to have you back on. Hope
Thank
you like
you.
the numbers. Victoria, maybe you have a better appreciation for math. I don't know.
I do. I like numbers like this brings me calm and brings me joy. If you're asking me to do anything else, don't, just don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, if my math is bringing calm and joy, I think maybe I've done what I've peaked, like you said. Peaked.
No, it's organized. It's color code. I think it's the color
Oh, the
coding,
color
maybe.
coding is what gets me.
I-
Yeah, it's all about
it's the
like
color
listen, you've
coding.
done the math. We haven't done the math. So
That's
you're
true.
doing the hard work and then you're color coding things for us to make things real nice and easy. So this arrangement works very well for me.
We
No,
love a
I
good
love-
gradient on the show. We love a good
We
gradient.
do.
It looks like my emails. I color code my emails, and that brings me joy as well. So I think that's what's happening here.
We're
Mhm.
bringing joy. We're making predictions. We're doing a lot of
Yeah.
things here. Kirstin, where can the listeners check you out? Are you up to anything that you want to talk about before we say goodnight?
My bestie and I well, she hosts it, but we co-produce an event called generationwomen.ca, and that is intergenerational storytelling. We have a topic. This is a quarterly event, and a woman in her 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s all speak on the topic, and it is a wonderful and amazing night. And tickets are on sale for the April 18th event. And you don't have to be a woman to attend. Anyone should attend. It's just great storytelling by incredible people who have lots to offer.
Thank you. And thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you.
Loved having you. Victoria, what about you? Where can people reach out to you? I know you got stuff going on.
I do. I'm a busy gal. You can find me if you're in the Detroit area. You can find me at Go Comedy Improv Theater in Ferndale, specifically March 24th, and future dates in April to come. But then after that, in May, starting May, you can find me in Chicago. Maybe doing stuff at Second City, maybe at the IO. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. But for now, you can find me on Instagram at v.ctoriaf. And I'll post some shows there. And if you're in the Detroit area, find me at Go Comedy. And then cheers to the future.
Mike, I'm
Thanks for
hearing
having
we
me
should
on.
all do a road trip to Chicago at a certain point
Yeah.
to
I
sit
love
in
that.
an audience.
We
Let's
should
do it.
also go to, I think, New York to watch fellow podcast host Kaylee perform too.
100%. Let me know when. I'll buy the ticket right now.
Yeah, she's my New York equivalent.
Okay, let's do it. Let's do it.
Love it.
We'll do
All right.
meetups.
Well, as always, thank you so much for listening to this show. It's such a fun show to put on, and it's always different every week. And I have great guests on every week, so I'm having a blast. I hope you're having a blast listening. As always, if you ever need a stat, you want me to do a stat in the show, please do it. Like and subscribe to the Saturday Night Network because that means a lot to us. We will be back next following the Jenna Ortega the 1975 episode, which is this Saturday. So right after that show wraps, come check out John and the gang on the Hot Take Show. And I will be back next Wednesday. On my normal day, we'll be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I am Mike Murray for Kirstin Turnbull and Victoria Franso and the whole crew at the Saturday Network. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next time.